Hi there. We've got some new information allegedly happened about call it the SNP Covid sex scandal. Last week, some of the newspapers reported that two high-ranking politicians in the SNP had an affair, which happens. However, this affair allegedly happened during the two lockdowns in 2020 and 2021. And there's been a lot of people on social media suggesting that they know who these two people are. I think it's quite common knowledge that a lot of people are suggesting. I'm only passing on a suggestion, I'm not saying it's true or anything, that the allegations involve Humza Yousaf, which may or may not be true, because it's only allegations at this point. But the internet's been awash with people suggesting who it is and why it's happened, when it happened, etc, etc, etc. And that last week's been quite hectic on social media. It's been quite a trending topic on many platforms. The newspapers had suggested they knew who it was, but at this moment were unable to say due to legal reasons, which can mean a number of things. I think the most common reason that they wouldn't say just now would be the person who has the information, who has obviously showed them the information that allowed them to print it in the first place. Papers, although sometimes we feel they get it wrong and they misinterpret stories, etc., they do actually have to satisfy a lot of criteria before they put something to print. It's, you know, they can't just write anything. And for a paper to have the balls to print even the story without the names would require evidence. And that evidence, I'm led to believe, came from them seeing the texts that the husband of one of these politicians showed them. That would give them enough comfort that if it went to court of law to say, well, what we printed was true. There was an affair, it's fair to suggest, from the information in front of us, between those two people that were suggested on the text. Now, what would prevent them putting the names down would be a couple of things. And I think the most likely, after talking to a few people on this one, could possibly be just a hesitation from the person supplying the information to actually go the next step, go full Monty on the story and name the people. But I think the papers certainly know who it is, and something is stopping them doing that. And it would seem, through information that I've been given, that that's just the husband of one of these people being a wee bit unsure about taking the next step, which is, you know, the point of no return. Once the names are out, they're out. So I don't disbelieve the story. I've got no concerns over the accuracy of what's been published so far in the mainstream media. And that's the reason I believe that the names have not been put out so far by the mainstream media. They may or may not have been put out correctly by new media and by social media, but that's the thing that's just stopping them doing it. They need the permission from the guy giving the information, or they could end up in bother. You could potentially have a legal case against them if they were to go with the names without the guy supplying that with the approval. So what's new about the case? Well, this bit's really interesting. That was just to give you a little background of what's happened for anybody who's lived under a rock and not been aware. So that's where we are, up until yesterday, over the weekend actually. The SNP party have done something bizarre, absolutely bizarre, and they've proper doubled down. And if this goes wrong, I believe they'll be in checkmate. And what the party have done is very unusual. Most times, when things like this happen, you would get a no comment, I'm not prepared to discuss it, or just say nothing when the press... You know, at the bottom of a story, you always see the SNP were contacted. That's the press telling us that they've tried to get both sides of the story, but the other party's just totally ignored them. Totally ignored them. Not give them anything to go on. Whereas they're duty bound to try and give a balanced report. So they would say, this is what the guy's saying, but this is what the SNP's saying, and you decide as the reader what you feel is truth when there's two parties saying something different. Well, their party line was say nothing. And they did say nothing until the weekend. And then they've absolutely doubled down. The SNP now have categorically denied this has happened. They confirmed that these rumours had been going about since February. And although they confirmed that their stance was up until now to say absolutely nothing, they felt now was the time it was right to say something and to say that these accusations were totally scurrilous, totally inaccurate. It didn't happen. They have now denied, one, the affair, which upsets some people, and some people are like, well, affairs happen. But the most serious thing they've also denied is that these two politicians had sex when they were not in the same household twice, at least twice, during two different lockdowns. SNP now have categorically denied that. So, only 22 things can happen from there, and I'll tell you my opinion on it. They have either looked into it and got some proof that it genuinely did not happen, or they've gambled. And I think they've gambled. I think they know what's happened here. And I think they know the pressure's been put on a certain individual who may or may not be able to confirm these stories with names. Because there are suggestions been made to me that that's what's happened here. The person who, could just quite simply say it was Mr. X and Mrs. Y has had some pressure put on him. By who, I don't know. The party, possibly. People within the party, possibly. People out with the party, also possible. But if that person has had pressure put on them, and SNP are aware of that, and they believe that that's enough to keep the story quiet, then and only then could they go and put that statement out. And if what I'm hearing through sources is correct, that one of the affected partners who has the email, the text proof of the affair and the timings, which would then prove that it was during lockdown when, I didn't meet my partner for several months during lockdown because I was in a separate bubble looking after my mother at the time, who's since passed away. So I was in one household bubble, she was in another, and we did not meet during COVID. And then you look at the Hancock case and the words of the SNP at the time about what should have happened, and by the way, quite rightly happened with Hancock. That man done the same as what's alleged here, and quite rightly lost his position in government. For the SNP to put that statement out could potentially be another nail in their coffin. Because if it's this week, this next week, the names were to be confirmed by the mainstream media, they've left themselves in an unattainable position where they've claimed this is categorically lies. I have no idea why they would change the normal strategy at this point and just say nothing, as they had before, and they admitted on that statement they put out at the weekend that they had made the strategy that they would say nothing on it. But now all of a sudden they've really doubled down on this one, and I'm not sure when their leader, Mr. Humza Yousaf, is coming back from his COP thing in the Middle East. But I would be terribly surprised and let down if he isn't facing some serious questions about his party behaviour, and two politicians from within his party for him now to say I'm saying nothing is also unacceptable, because if the party line was we're saying nothing about it, then he could follow the party line. The party line has changed somewhat over the weekend. The party line is to say the allegations are totally inaccurate. So if someone put a microphone in front of him or at First Minister's questions and was to ask him about it as the leader of the party, not the accused, obviously, but the leader of the party, who's already commented on it, but a very strange position, wouldn't it? So congratulations, SNP, for doubling down on this one. And you've now put in the public domain that you will discuss this, which leaves the party leader and the First Minister of Scotland. He'll be able to talk about it. And if he says he can't, it's contradictory to the party stance. So I look forward to his return. I look forward to him being asked quite a lot of seriously difficult questions about the sexual affair during COVID that two politicians from the SNP, two high-ranking politicians in the SNP had. And it would be very funny if the names came out properly in the press. But I would like that to happen after Humza has been questioned and totally denied all these allegations on behalf of his party, obviously, not on behalf of him personally, because it wasn't him, was it? So he would, in his position as a party leader and the First Minister of Scotland, if he was to totally deny these allegations and the names were eventually to come out, which would prove it did happen, it'd be funny then, wouldn't it? Thanks for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up, please.